there.
Here we go.
How are you?
How are you?
Welcome to what we're calling Echoes from the Well.
Amazing. Echoes from the well. I love
Yeah.
it. A
And
great
in your case, we go back 4 years.
Wow.
I think
Wow.
it was towards the end of year one of the lockdown 2020,
Okay.
and you're
Amazing.
episode 37. So you're right at the beginning.
Wow. Okay. I was thinking there before we came on, I was like, how long has it been now? Because it feels like such a amazing moment to take stock of, a big
Yeah.
moment in my life, a big time of my life. So, but I didn't realize it was 4 years. I kind of said, I think about three,
Well,
but
I was thinking the same, but I looked it up this morning and I was surprised to see that it goes back that far.
amazing. You did your actual homework rather than trying to pick a date out of
Oh, well,
your
that's
head.
my job.
Yeah.
Listen, it's a real pleasure to have you on because it goes back that far,
Yeah.
and you in particular, because I know so much has happened in the last 4 years with you. So
Yes.
can we refresh the audience and tell them who you are and certainly what you were then? I know what you've become now, but can you just give us a little summary of who you are?
A little summary of who I am. It's actually
Oh,
quite
sorry, who you were 4 years
who
ago.
I was. Yes.
Yeah,
Not a simple and a not so simple question. So I suppose for this podcast, my name is Fearghal Curtis, first of all. And at the time, I was an opera singer. But obviously, it was during COVID times, so there wasn't a lot of opera performances happening.
true.
So I kind of went into podcasting, so the podcasting world. So I was working in a podcast studio. I had launched my own podcast, and I was also producing and working alongside other podcast um, people and
Yeah.
collaborators. And we were, yeah, creating podcasts in during lockdown time. I was very much, I look back now and I was like, I was figuring it all out, to be honest.
Yeah.
And when I spoke to you, there was definitely an element of confidence, but with the amount I've learned now, I'm like, wow, I had a long way to go at that time in my journey. And then, yeah, I suppose I was also figuring out what opera, what performing was to me anymore, being given that break that I didn't ask for.
I
And then
know.
it
Yeah.
was like, yeah, okay, this is an opportunity to think of how that actually fits into my
Yeah.
life.
I mean, I really admire the fact that you did pivot in such a way that was quite different, because there are a lot of musicians and singers, I'm sure, who literally once they realized they couldn't perform in public, just went mute. That was the end of it.
Yeah. I
Whereas you
suppose
went into something quite different.
Yeah, and I suppose there's different ways of kind of approaching that where, some people maybe went behind the scenes and started exploring their own creativity within the art form they were already in and figuring out, okay, maybe I could approach my practice like this, or what does this mean? Or maybe I'll do a different genre within this
Hmm.
art form. And I think for me, I had always had podcasting in the back of my head.
Well, had you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's something for years I was always like, there's something about that medium that I quite like. I didn't know what it was, and I always had, played around with ideas of what would my podcast be if I was to set one up. So I suppose, and at the same time, I was in a production when COVID hit, and if I was being brutally honest, I wasn't devastated that
Hmm.
I had to finish up there. So I took note of that and I was like, there's something here that I need to explore when it
Yeah.
comes to my performance. And I think for me, going to a completely different medium allowed me to discover another part of myself and allowed me then to reflect on the career I had been in and figure out what worked for me, what didn't.
I
So
know. I know.
yeah.
I mean, would it be fair to say that had it not been for COVID, that you probably wouldn't have gone into podcasting? Or do you think that was going to happen anyway?
I actually believe it would have happened.
Hmm.
Um, how long it would have taken, I don't know. I can be quite the procrastinator. I'm also someone who likes to fill their schedule to the brim.
Hmm.
So whether I found the time to do it, it could have been another 10 years. But I
Yeah.
think it was always an idea that was floating around. And something I know about myself is I'll always get to the idea. it might take me a while to get to the idea, but I will get there. And I always feel that when I get there, I'm like, it was meant to happen now. So I almost look at it like, well, COVID hit and that was the time it was meant to be,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly, exactly. But it even developed further than just the podcast, didn't it?
Yeah,
You found another niche in the market
I
that
did.
that you felt very comfortable with and that you've done extremely well with.
Yeah, I think so. I'm enjoying it. I'm
Yeah.
having like a really
Now,
good
people
time.
won't have a clue what we're talking about.
We'll keep them in suspense, will
Maybe
we?
we should, just for a minute or two.
It was actually when I was working in the kind of podcasting realm in the arena, and I was working with a friend of mine, Renee von Medding, and we were doing a podcast together. I was producing it, she was hosting it, and we would meet every week and we would go through notes and we'd go through edits and we would do introductions together. Um, and we would just sit each week and have the chats. And then towards the end of the series, we were in one kind of final meeting together, and she had just announced that she had trained to be a celebrant. So I kind of said, I can't believe you didn't tell me. Like, that's pretty cool, asking questions about it. And it kind of ended with her saying, well, you should do it. I think you have something to offer in that kind of space. And I was like, absolutely not. I have enough to be doing with my time. I was really like into the podcasting at the time. I was exploring both, behind the scenes and on mic stuff. And also a lot of opera contracts were coming back. So I was busy. And she said, just have a chat with my friend Karen, who is the founder of the organization that I trained with, Entheus Ireland, an amazing organization. And she said, jump on a call with Karen. So I jumped on a call with Karen. We had a chat. It was, a great chat, but I was very inquisitive about the organization, about what it was about. And then halfway through, I just kind of said, sorry, is this an interview? And Karen was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, right. I didn't realize. And then Karen said, I would love you to come do our next training course. And by that stage, I was very intrigued and interested in the world she had created. So I said, yeah, okay, let's jump in and just explore it. I still had no, desire to be a celebrant.
Yeah.
I had no kind of want to be one, but I was like, this is something cool to explore and see what I can experience from it.
And
And
how many have you done since?
couldn't tell you.
Oh, go
Yeah,
on, give
I
me.
would say I could probably work it out fairly quickly,
Yeah.
but you know, I've been doing it 3 years now. First year was quiet enough, second year was busy, and this year, it's pretty much every week I'm doing 2 to 3 ceremonies, whether that be weddings, naming ceremonies, or funerals. I'm kind of exploring the whole arena of celebrant and celebrating life and celebrating these
Yes.
big milestones. And it's turned into, a pretty full-time gig for me, which is amazing. While also I am still working away on my podcast gigs behind the scenes with beautiful people that I'm working with. And actually, Renee, who I mentioned earlier, I work from her studio now. She lives around the corner. She's this beautiful studio out of her back garden, and I work from there. And yeah, and then I'm also, you know, still singing. I would be singing every week, kind of doing gigs. I put on my own cabaret night. I have opera contracts coming up next year. So it's quite full, but the celebrants stuff has become a massive part of my life.
Really?
It's something
Yeah.
I really love and I really see, quite a future in because of both everything I'm learning from it and I'm gaining from it, but also I feel a lot of my gifts I can really bring to that space.
Yeah.
A lot of what I've learned from podcasting, from being a performer,
Mhm.
from all the jobs you have to do as an artist growing up to survive, kind of all comes together in the celebrant
I
world.
suppose absolutely. And when you just said that word performance, I mean, it is a performance.
It's interesting. I
Yeah.
actually don't like to
Yeah.
call it a performance, but what I say is the skills I learned from being a performer
Mhm.
definitely give me such a sense of confidence and have such a space when you're standing in front of a crowd. But as a celebrant, I don't feel like I'm performing. I feel like myself. I feel like I'm just getting up. I'm facilitating a space. I'm, connecting with whether it be the couple or the family or your friends or whoever's in the space. So I don't feel like I'm putting on a character or I'm, trying to express an
Oh
emotion
no.
that I
Yeah.
might necessarily be feeling in that moment. I'm just showing up and saying, this is who I am.
Yes.
And I suppose I'm quite a performer in my day-to-day life. So those skills naturally come to the space, but I very much just feel like I'm having a good time with people and connecting with them in this special moment in their life. So it
Isn't
is
it
interesting.
funny?
It is a performance
Yeah.
to one degree, but it doesn't feel like one.
I don't know. I can fully understand why you wouldn't want to call it a performance. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of taking out the authenticity, I suppose, of the occasion and everything
Yeah.
else like that. But I just feel that you in particular have the gift of at least being able to stand up there in front of several, people, if not 100 or more,
Yeah,
with
I
something
am
like that.
very grateful for, I suppose, being comfortable to do
Yeah.
that. And that has definitely come from, being on stage for so many years and
Yeah.
having gone through the nerves, knowing how to manage my nerves as well.
Yes. Yes. And tell
There's
me, you're a bit of an impresario as well.
what's a non-presario now?
Well, I think it's somebody who arranges gigs and am I right? The Sugar
Yes.
Club and all that.
Yeah, yeah. So I have my cabaret night, the Curtis Cabaret, and it's actually interesting you've contacted me at this time to jump on now because we launched that in 2022 and we kind of did cabarets back to back. And it was going really well, but I was learning a lot. It was a lot of work. There's a lot of people involved. So I ended up, as I started getting busier in the celebrant world, I
Hmm.
ended up taking a step away from the cabaret. It felt like the right time to
Yeah.
um, and allow all those lessons to kind of infiltrate and, I'd have time to reflect on them and think. And I only decided this year. So I think it's been nearly 2 years since we've done our last cabaret, but
Yeah.
we have just launched one for the 21st of September. It's kind of a new lease for the cabaret. It very much is still rooted in what the cabaret was all about, but now with all these lessons and learnings of how you put on a show. Also, I think one of the biggest ones for me is asking for help and handing over jobs to people who have those skills. And when people
Yes.
approach you and say, I want to be involved with this because I love what you created, being able to trust that they really want to give up their time and they really want to be part of it. And then, so it's a new collaborative experience because I suppose I'm not holding on to having to do absolutely everything myself and
Mm.
trusting that other people are happy to take on the jobs that maybe I'm not as natural as, and that has just made it so much more joyful to have those collaborations and then to allow myself to have extra space to be like, oh, well, now I can create this idea and we can approach rehearsals like this and I can speak to my other performers about this. Whereas before I might have been overwhelmed by,
Yeah.
box office or, creating schedules or making sure we had everything on the day. Um, Now I have a little team to help me out, in particular, one amazing person, Jess O'Connor, who has come on and just been like, I'm going to do this with you. And
Yeah.
she's been incredible to kind of give me a bit more space to not get overwhelmed and enjoy it. And I think it's going to be, it feels like it has the magic of the first one again, which is exciting
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. But you're happy to have all these fingers and all these pies and sort of go with the flow, which I think is a wonderful thing. The fact that you're amenable to doing something completely off
Yeah,
field, like the celebrant.
totally. I
If you were
suppose,
to talk to most of our listeners would be our viewers would be visual artists.
yeah.
And to tell somebody that 4 years ago they would be painting on a canvas, and in 4 years' time they're going to be a celebrant and they're going to be doing this and they're going to
Uh,
be doing that, they kind of say, okay. But that's
Being
what's
a
lovely about you, that
celebrant,
you've been able to
yeah.
adapt to everything.
I do think that's one of my skills is that I'm quite adaptable and flexible and I'm curious. So
Yes,
I'm
yes.
always like, well, how do I show up in this space? What can I learn from this space? What do I offer this space? And I suppose that comes with confidence of having been in so many different spaces, even in the performance world. Like, after my master's, I ended up going on a musical theatre
Mhm.
tour where I had to dance much more than I've ever had to move in my life. And that was like, okay, let's figure it out. So I suppose I have that attitude. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm exhausted a lot of the time. I do get overwhelmed, and
Yeah.
I am constantly revisiting the question of, is this sustainable?
Yeah.
Is my energy being pulled in so many different directions sustainable? And, am I still enjoying everything? Or have things, run their course. And, I stepped away from the podcasting for a few months because I felt it ran its course, but then I'm drawn back because someone might contact me or I might have another idea. So I think I've learned to just be like, go with the flow, is what you said.
Mhm.
And that's what I've learned to do is be like, let's go with the flow, but very much keep checking in that I suppose more than ever, my life is important to me, friends, family, quality of life. And that is, I always make sure that that's a priority
Mhm.
above work. I just am lucky that all my work bits are passions and loves and something that if you gave me all the money in the world and I didn't have to make a wage, I probably would still be doing because I have
Exactly what you're
that
doing.
kind of drive to be
Yeah.
like, well, let's create.
Yeah.
And it kind of, even you saying that, it's like, God, what, in 5 years, could I be doing another role that I've never even
Well,
considered?
knowing you,
Probably.
probably
Yeah, yeah. But I
either that.
like that about the celebrant stuff
Yes.
because I see such potential in it going in so many different directions. And all I need to focus on now is what I'm doing now, the beautiful couples I'm marrying, the families I'm getting to connect with, the ceremonies I'm part of. That's all I really need to focus on
Mm.
now. But every now and again, when I let myself dream, I'm like, wow, this could go in so many different directions. And I suppose let's just allow it
Yeah.
to happen. And I do trust more than ever now that I'll just end up where I'm meant to be. Because I never
Mm.
thought I'd be a celebrant. And now I'm like, this feels like the perfect place for me to be right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are so many lessons that people can take from what you've done and your attitude to things, and that an offhand remark like, did you ever think of being a celebrant? You might be good at it, and then you
Mm,
say, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. I mean, you
yeah,
couldn't possibly. I know. I was listening very briefly to our conversation of 4 years ago, where this woman who was running the podcast production company said to you, "I want to give you a job, Fergal," and you said, "Are you
yeah,
crazy? I have no media experience. I've no, interviewing experience. I've no production experience. I've no
yeah.
this, that, and the other." And she said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, do you want the job or not?"
Yeah. And I'm so grateful. I really am so grateful to her for, I suppose, seeing that in me and giving me that chance.
Mm.
Because I learned so much from that job. And I learned so much about myself and about the industry and about the, art form of podcasting.
Mhm.
And but it comes with its challenges as well. It
Oh, yes, I'm
comes with
sure. Yeah.
not, I'm quite hard on myself and I didn't always reach, a high standard that I wanted to create because maybe I needed to figure out some more skills or maybe I needed to figure out how my process was with creating something. So there has been a lot of mistakes and a lot of taking risks and taking on jobs that have maybe felt bigger than me at the time. And on reflection, I'm like, they were bigger than me, but actually, I had the confidence to give it a shot
Mm.
and go for it. And some of them went great, and some definitely didn't. And, you know, it can be a long process and it can be a lot of talking to yourself in your head of going, what are you doing? And then you do eventually get to a place where you're like, that's why I learned that lesson. Oh,
Yes.
okay. And you might let go of something and then come back to it when you're ready to say, I'm ready to figure out why that failing happened and
Mm.
how I can maybe learn from it, grow from it, and either let it go or make it part of, your skill set, your toolkit again. So it's not like,
Yeah.
I've taken to everything and it's been like, God, this is great. And I've taken to that and that's been great. There's been a lot of challenges,
Soul searching.
always soul searching. Like even I was going to listen back to our interview and I was just like, I don't think I want to at this moment in my life because I don't feel like the same person I was 4 years ago.
But you know,
Um,
this is brilliant because it's the entire rationale behind doing what I want to do, which is doing this Echoes from the Well.
yeah,
Because I think people are fascinated about what people are doing now. They were introduced to you 4 years ago, but they haven't a clue what you've done since.
yeah.
And now, when you tell us what you've done, it's remarkable. I mean, it's phenomenal,
And
and
it's
there's
nice.
great lessons in there for everybody.
Yeah, and it's nice for me to take note and be like, actually, I have done something for the last 4 years. Because sometimes you're like, I haven't done enough, or I haven't achieved this, or, I didn't get that job, or that, particular project didn't work out, or I didn't get the funding that I went for here. And you can sometimes get lost in everything you haven't achieved. So it's nice to be like, wow, I've done a few things and they've been cool, and I definitely am a different person because
Yes.
of it. Maybe with the same connection to why I'm showing up in the world to create and to
Mm,
figure life out a bit. I just
yeah.
think maybe 4 years down the line, I'm a little bit closer and I know myself a little bit better, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And are there any things that you think you'd like to do in the future that you haven't tackled yet that might be sort of, do you know what, I'd really fancy having a go at that?
Yes, there's
Is
loads.
there?
There's so much.
Come on out of it.
I know, and I'm almost nervous to say things because you're like, oh, who do you think you
Yeah.
are?
Well, we
But
won't
like,
hold you to it now, Fergal. It's just,
yeah, okay. This
pie
is
in the
like,
sky.
look, I really feel there's so many ideas and thoughts in my head that I'm like, how could I achieve all of that? But like, have always loved the medium of radio. I've always been quite intrigued by it. So I've done some radio stuff, and again, it's been like a deer in the headlights.
Mhm.
So I'd love to explore that more. The celebrant work has taught me that I love to write. Um,
Really?
and yeah, I really love like writing the scripts and writing people's love stories and figuring out the words that resonate with different types of people has allowed me to sit and just, I've always been a journaler. I've always journaled.
Have you? Yeah.
So I think that it's having it focused in the celebrant world has made me go, God, I really actually like writing. I don't know what that would mean for me because I don't consider myself a writer. Um, but, I've thought about writing people's love stories and, maybe creating a book full of different types of love stories or different types of love because love exists in so many different ways. I would love to go back to theatre. I don't think I'm done there. I'd love to be part of new projects. I'd love to use my voice in different ways. I would love to. One thing a friend of mine once said to me, I did a show last year and threw up some pictures on Instagram. And a friend of mine messaged and said, I'd love to see you do a straight play, no
Hmm.
singing. And I was like, oh, Jesus, that would terrify me now. But then she's definitely planted a seed of, well, could I?
Yeah.
And I'd love to see what I could create with my cabaret and connecting more with the reasons I originally wanted to do the cabaret and seeing how they could grow.
Yeah.
Um, so there's so much. I'd also love to live by the sea. I would also love to buy a house. I would like there's so much I'd like to achieve, but I've realized don't let yourself get overwhelmed by always wanting, 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 and
Yes.
look around and be like, well, look what you have already, and let's create from there. But yeah, I actually started the other day another something that sat in the back of my head for years is doing a one person show.
Yes.
And I played around with loads of different ideas. And the other day I was in a cafe on my own and I was having some lunch, grabbed the journal, and I just kind of started writing something that I was like, oh, because I always said I'm not going to put on a show unless there's actually a reason for this show to exist. And it
Mhm.
can't just be about my story. It has to be maybe about my story that would be universal and people would resonate. And I think I have a little idea. So maybe that will become something. But again, Alan, where do you find the time? I also have to sleep and eat and do all those little things, get to the gym and all those bits,
Yes.
you know?
Yes, yes, yes. I suppose that's true. That is true. Yeah. Well, look, we're going to keep this quite short, as you know, because we said it would just literally be about 15 minutes or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Um, I'm so, so pleased I came back to you because of all the people I reckon I'm going to be talking to, and I'm going to be talking to quite a few, I'm hoping,
Yeah.
you of all people have pivoted in such a way, to use that terrible word, but you have in a most extraordinary fashion, and not just once, but twice and three times into various different things, all of which you can see that the sort of the linkage in all of them and how one led to the other
Mm,
and how your talents have progressed and allowed you to do other things, which I think is very, very admirable. And also the fact that you're not constrained to saying, well, I'm a singer. Oh, that's it. I'm not, I'm not a podcaster. I'm not a celebrant. I'm not an impresario, the new one for you.
yeah. New word for me. That's going straight on my bio.
Absolutely. But look, anyway, I'm so pleased to talk to you. And thank you so much for taking the
Can I
time.
share one story before I
Please
go?
do.
I
Please.
was down doing a wedding in Cork for a gorgeous couple, and we were doing it in an art gallery.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the first time I'd ever done a wedding ceremony in an art gallery, and it was lovely, and all the art was around. And one of my favorite things was the couple said, we're going to buy a piece of art from today to remember a wedding day. But I was out the back going to the toilet, prepping myself, doing a bit of like, reflecting, am I ready? How are the nerves? All that stuff.
Yeah.
And I came across your book, The Source. Um,
No.
yeah, in the gallery, and I was like a big stack of them, and I opened it up, and you had a lovely page of myself and from our interview, and a couple of pictures from that time where my
Mhm.
hair was much longer.
It
Uh,
was. It was.
and I said to Brian, who was running the gallery, I was like, "Oh, look at this! I'm in this book. That's gas." And he was like, "That book sells very well. It's still selling amazingly to this day." And I love that clashing of worlds.
Yeah.
Being like
Yeah.
something you might do years might show up in a different space at a different time, and then only a couple of days later, you sent me the message. So.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it
It's
was
not
only a couple of
recent.
days later you messaged me like, any chance you want to pop back on? So
Yeah.
there's energy always floating out there.
Yeah.
And who knows what's around the
And
corners.
you either open the door to it or you close the door at it.
Exactly. And I think I've done both in my
Yeah.
life. So I'm trying to learn consciously opening and closing the right doors
Yeah.
moving
Very
forward.
good. Very good. Listen, Fergus, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you
And
so
we'll talk
much.
to you again in a couple of years and see what you're
Yes,
up
I
to.
can't wait. Who knows where we'll be?
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you. Bye bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.